Johnson understood, Nixon understood, Gerald Ford understood, that the American people were willing to devote only so much in the way of resources, energy, and time to Vietnam. The basic problem was that it was very difficult to make a case that Vietnam was intrinsically important to American security. It had some importance, but the importance lay in its relation to American credibility. If the United States has said it's going to defend South Vietnam and chooses not to or fails to do that, well, what are the Germans going to think? What are America's other allies going to think? Allies that are more important to the United States. Now, Johnson wasn't the one who had made those promises, and those promises were made by Harry Truman and by Dwight Eisenhower and followed up by John Kennedy. He was the inheritor of those promises, but because the promises had been made, he didn't think he could simply ignore them. It would have been politically impossible for Johnson to say, you know, this is a bad place for America to be involved militarily. We're going to pull the troops home. He simply could not have done that politically.
Do you all agree with that? Because I think that's one point to get to. Was it a political impossibility just to say very early on, we are going to pull out and we're going to let this remain a local issue, essentially, a civil war?
That clearly is the way that President Johnson saw it, and that is the way that most of those that he trusted the most in the Congress and around him in his cabinet felt in the early stages. I should emphasize, however, that as the situation escalated, as the casualties mounted, as the shouts of, hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today, could even be heard in the White House by Lucy, by Linda, those of us who were there. And I'll never forget driving out one evening with him as the protesters shouted, I mean, very loudly at the limousine, again, hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? He leaned over and he said, I just wish that they knew that I want peace as much as they do too.